lecture part. Okay, so once more, very good morning to my dear students. I welcome you all into the industrial pharmacy first. Dear student, we are onto the packaging material, and while studying that one, we had gone through the role, importance, the requirements of the packaging of the pharmaceuticals, the basic properties of the different materials that are going to be used. We had gone through the legal requirements, the different aspects of the legal requirement, and we said that the pharmaceutical packaging, that is, say, the separate department which is going to be working in case of the pharmaceutical industry, although it seems that it is the integral part of the pharmaceutical technology or the pharmaceutical manufacturing units, but as such it is not, and it is the separate department. So the packaging that is having the different requirements, like say there are some of the sophistication packs which are needed, which is going to be increasing day by day. There is increasing sophistication of the product, there is incorporation of a device into the pack, and the cost of development. So all these are the things that already we saw in the sufficient details in our previous lecture, and we were onto the part of the disposal of the packaging materials, right? So that proper disposal is going to be needed. So this is the different kinds of the special packagings, the quality and aspects, and the protection. So this is the last slide which we saw in our previous lecture.
Yes, sir.
Now here, and in continuation to this, today we have to proceed with the lecture part. We were on to the protection aspect of the pharmaceutical packaging material, the material which is going to be used, that should be environment friendly, that should be properly disposed of, that should be recycled, isn't it? So if we look toward these all particular points, like say the recycling aspect, landfilling, and the incineration, there are three different ways by which we can go for the protecting the environment from that of the effect of these materials, from effect of these pharmaceutical packaging products, in order to avoid the wastage. So looking toward that, if there are different kinds of materials, and what the materials we are going to be using for packaging, that is the paper, cardboard, plastic, glass, rubber, and the metals. Now, in this, if we see the process of recycling, landfilling, and the incineration. Landfilling, that is digging the land and burying it into the land. So that is it, the landfilling. Recycling, the same kind of material going to be used in order to prepare the fresh material or the fresh product. Incineration, just to go on burning the particular product. Now, if we see toward all these, there are recommendations. The recommendation that are in the form of plus signs, single plus, double plus, and the triple plus. If 3 times plus are there, that means that particular process is highly recommended. Plus plus, that means recommended, and plus means that is acceptable. NA, that refers to that of the not applicable. So if we look toward all these, the process which is applicable to that of the paperboard, that is the recycling, that is highly recommended in case of the paperboard. And less recommended, that is the landfilling and the incineration in case of the paperboard. If you see the plastic, in case of plastic, recycling, landfilling, that is recommended and acceptable respectively. But if you see the incineration, that is highly recommended in case of the plastics. If you see the glass, in case of glass, the recycling, that is highly recommended, right? Whereas landfilling, that is recommended, and the incineration, that is not at all recommended. Rubber, in case of rubber, the recycling process, that is acceptable. the landfilling that is recommended, whereas incineration that is highly recommended. So rubber, plastic, they will subject to that of the incineration process, whereas the paper that is subjected to that of the recycling, glass that is subjected to that of the recycling, whereas metal that is subjected to that of the recycling, whereas landfilling that is acceptable and incineration that is not at all applicable in case of the metals. Then the waste policies, the waste policy will say that whatever that kind of waste material is going to be generated, that should be minimum, right? So reducing the packaging material that should be tried to reduce as minimum as possible. That's why nowadays you may going to find that most of the kinds of the liquid bottles, these are without the plastic covers or without the paper covers, right? Just they will going to be sold as such, because these are not glass bottles, or there is no chances of much more giving protection, so that in order to avoid the breakage, because of the plastic nature, these are non fragile, so these are not subjected to that of the much damage or much mechanical shock, so they can be dispensed as such without packing them into the secondary packaging, right? So the efforts that should be made in order to reduce the volume and weight of the packaging material. As far as possible, we should reduce the volume, we should reduce the weight, we should reduce the quantity of the packaging material. So that is the recommended in case of the waste policy. And to eliminate packaging which is not essential for the protection of the content of medicinal product. Yes, if it is the glass bottle, there is a need to provide secondary packaging of the paper board. But if it is the plastic bottle of, if it is the PET bottle, then in that case, as it is highly resistant, or it can withstand the mechanical shock, even though if it will fall, it will not subjected to that of the breaking. So in that case, there is no need to go for packing it into the secondary packaging of the paper board. So that is the thing. Salvaging and the recycling packaging, this means what? The use of environmental friendly packaging need to be considered. Like say for example, the material that is to be used, which will be subjected to that of the process of recycling, right? In contact with that of the toxic or highly potent drugs, that will require the special consideration. Protection to the environment. Eliminating and incinerating packaging. Some plastic material that cannot be recycled and are therefore incinerated, right? Few plastic material, they will subject to that of the process of recycling. Few plastic material, they will subjected to that of the digging, and few plastic material, they will subjected to that of the recycling. So everything that will depend on to the qualities, that will depend on to the properties of the plastic material, whereas few plastic material that cannot be incinerated, because they will subject to that of the generation of the lot of smokes, right? And the toxic gases, the toxic smoke that is going to be generated, so that will depend on to the properties. Some plastic material cannot be recycled and therefore re-incinerated, whereas few that cannot be subjected to the recycling, so there is no there is a need to go for incineration, there is no other option. The burning of polyvinyl chloride, that is the PVC, is controversial, since if combustion is not complete, it causes a potential increase in the levels of the dioxin in the environment. Stability aspect, that is the purpose of the stability testing, to provide evidence on how the quality of packaging material varies with the time under the influence of a variety of environmental conditions such as temperature, humidity, and the light. What is the effect of temperature, what is the effect of light, and what is the effect of humidity? Most of the plastic material, they will subject to cracking, breaking, if they will get subjected to that of the light, because of the heat, because of the light, because of the higher temperature. Few may go on becoming flexible or say soft, whereas few, their content or their chemical properties will going to be changed, and the flexibility that will going to be lost, and they will go for breaking into the pieces. So that is the effect of the environmental. To establish a shelf life for the pharmaceutical packaging, and in order to determine the storage conditions, there is a need to ensure the storage life, shelf life, Because say, if the shelf life of a product that is for the 2 year, and if the shelf life of this packaging material that is just 1 year, then there is no suitability to go for use of such a kind of plastic material in order to pack and in order to store the uh, product with the 2 years of the packaging. Then in use, stability should be conducted on the dosage form packaged in the container closure system that is proposed for the marketing. It should have suitability for the marketing. It should have the suitability during the process of shipment. The ultimate proof of sustainability, right? It should be sustainable of the container closure system and the packaging processes that should be established by the full shelf life stability studies. The stability testing of pharmaceutical products is a complex set of procedures involving considerable cost, time, consumption, and the scientific expertise. The most important steps during the developmental stages include pharmaceutical analysis and stability studies that are required to determine and assure identity, potency, and the purity. These need to be maintained. These need to be determined in case of the packaging. It should be potent, it should be identified, and it should be maintain the purity of the product, of the ingredient, as well as those of the formulated product. The kind of packaging material which is coming directly in contact with that of the product, it is necessary that it should maintain the identity, purity, and the potency of the product. It should not get altered, or it should not get affected, or it should not get changed. The stability testing is termed a complex process because of involvement of a variety of factors influencing the stability of the pharmaceutical product. The stability testing, that is nothing but the process that how the product or how the packaging material that is stable with that of the product, and the different factors that will include the stability of the active ingredient. This is most important. The packaging material should not alter, affect, or change the properties of the active ingredient. It should not get interacted with that of the active ingredient and the excipient, whatever the kind of excipient that we are using in order to make the product stable. That should not be altered. That should not be affected. Manufacturing processes, it should not be altered. The type of dosage form, the property should not get altered. Like say there is a change into the properties of the phase, like say in case of the emulsion, WO type of emulsion to the OW type of emulsion, or OW type of emulsion to the WO type of emulsion. The type of dosage form or sometime that should not get changed. The container and the closure system that is used for the packaging, it should not affect all these. The light, heat, moisture conditions encountered during shipment, storage, and the handling. This is already I explained. Stability testing is what? It is a routine process. It is a routine procedure that is going to be performed on the drug substance and the product. It should be performed at the various stages of the product development. In early stages, the accelerated stability testing at a relatively high temperature and humidity that is going to be performed, that is going to be used. The accelerated, the conditions are going to be accelerated, the conditions are going to be increased, enhanced, and be changed, right? Say for example, if we see there is a drastic change as far as the okay, so that is the thing, stability study and the accelerated stability study. The testing, unless under less rigorous conditions, that is those recommended for long-term shelf storage at slightly elevated temperatures, is used to determine a product's shelf life and the expiration dates. The aim to provide reasonable assurance that the products will remain at an acceptable level of fitness quality throughout the period during which they are in marketplace available for supply to the patients.